Will you not see to that? Agnes! And you can tell him if he shortchanges me on the lamb again, I'll tell the mistress to use Jackson's. Well, come in if you're coming.
Mrs. Mallon?
Who's asking?
My name is George Soper.
And?
I am a civil engineer with a particular interest in sanitation, public health.
I'm thrilled for you. What's that to me?
May I?
If you must.
Mrs. Mallon,
It's
you
Miss.
worked... Apologies. Miss Mallon, last summer you worked at the home of a Mr. and Mrs. George Thompson, Oyster Bay. Is that correct?
No, that is not correct.
So you've never worked in Oyster Bay?
I didn't say that. I worked for Mr. Charles Henry Warren in Oyster Bay last summer.
Well, yes, that's correct. The Warren family had rented the home from Mr. Thompson for the entire season.
I wouldn't know about that.
Oh, no, of course not. And did you stay with the family for the whole summer they rented the property?
More or less.
Well, which was it, Miss Mallon? Either you worked for the family for the duration of their stay on Long Island, or you did not.
I left at the end of August. Look, what is this about? I never stole a thing in my life. You can ask any of my employers, including her upstairs. So if someone has made an accusation against me...
Madam, please calm yourself. I assure you no one has accused you of anything like that.
I should think not.
Indeed, I've spoken to many of your previous employers. They're all highly complimentary about your skills as a cook.
Ah, well. Hold on. What do you mean, you've been talking to my employers? Who the hell are you to be checking up on me?
Madam, please, if you'll just let me finish.
You have 1 minute to explain yourself, and then I call for the footman. He's 6'4". He'll have you on the sidewalk in 2 seconds flat.
I assure you there is no need for that.
Well, talk and be quick about it.
As I said, I'm a civil engineer.
You haven't been civil so far.
You said you left the Warrens' employ at the end of August, is that correct?
That's what I said, isn't it?
Any particular reason you chose to leave the household?
There was a disease in the house. One of the maids and Mr. Warren's daughter. I didn't want to leave, but I can't afford to get sick, so I handed in my notice. And I know what you're thinking, what kind of a woman abandons her employers in their hour of need. But then more of the family were struck down, and when Dottie died...
Dottie?
The maid. I roomed with her.
Ah, we didn't have her name.
Of course you didn't. Well, when Dottie died, that was it. I packed my bags. If it was the other way around, the Warrens would have turfed me out, no bother. I left Ireland years ago, but the one thing I learned about this place is that in New York, you put yourself first.
And this sickness that you mentioned, did you stay around long enough for the cause of it to be identified?
Typhoid.
That's correct, Miss Mallon. The outbreak was indeed typhoid.
If you already knew that, then why all the questions?
Well, typhoid is a particular interest of mine, Miss Mallon.
Well, you're a queer sort of a fella, but I guess that the moment you walked in.
Do you understand how typhoid is transmitted, Miss Mallon?
The sick pass it on, Mr. Soper, which is why I hot-footed out of that place before poor Dottie was cold, God bless her.
So you yourself never got ill?
Well, I'm still here, haven't I?
Oh, but you never showed any symptoms, nausea or fever?
Never been sick. Not a day in my life.
Fascinating.
Is it, really? Well, I have to get on. Herself upstairs will have a face in her like thunder if the lunch is late, so...
Would it interest you to know that I was hired by Mr. Thompson, the owner of the house in Oyster Bay, to try and find the source of the outbreak that so tragically took your friend Dora?
Dottie.
Oh, of course. You see, Miss Mallon, I have a theory about you.
Men like you often do.
I believe, completely unconsciously, you carry the typhus bacillus around in your body without experiencing any of the physical effects of the disease. In effect, you are a carrier of the illness without exhibiting any of the markers of the sickness. infecting people without even realizing it.
What are you babbling on about? I never infected anyone.
Again, madam, I'm not accusing you of doing this intentionally, far from it. But what you must understand is that your lack of symptoms makes you a far more dangerous disseminator of the disease.
Look, could I say this one more time? You pompous gobdaw.
Now, there is no need for insults, madam. I realize this would be difficult for your sort to understand.
My sort? My sort? Who exactly are my sort?
Well, I meant no offense, Miss Mallon. I was merely highlighting that to one such as yourself, an Irish woman of limited education, the ideas I'm proposing would, of course, be beyond your reasoning.
Well, I suggest you start explaining them so, in terms a poor, simple immigrant such as myself can understand.
Of course, Miss Mallon. I'm always happy to educate the lower classes. Oh, but if I use words that are beyond you, please don't hesitate to say.
Oh, I won't. On you go.
Well, typhoid tends to be spread by contaminated water or food. And tiny particles of fecal matter, forgive my vulgarity, are passed from those who have the disease onto healthy individuals. Are you following me so far?
Just about. Keep going.
Some people carry the typhoid bacteria around in their intestines without ever presenting as unwell. And we call these people asymptomatic carriers. I don't expect these complicated terms to mean anything to you. You just have to remember.
And you believe that I am one of these so-called asymptomatic carriers?
That is correct, Miss Mallon. Well done.
Because I worked in a house where there was an outbreak of that cursed disease. My God. I mean, I know you lot like to blame the immigrants for everything, but
7,
this really...
madam.
7 what?
7 houses with typhoid outbreaks, either whilst you worked there or shortly after you left. At least, those are the ones I've been able to trace.
You're lying. You've no idea where I've worked.
Manor New York. You worked there from 1897 to...
1900, what of it?
A young gentleman visiting the family was struck down 10 days after his arrival.
Please.
All his symptoms indicate typhoid was the cause of his illness.
I remember that young fella as far from a gentleman as you could find. Too much drink on him, more like.
1902, you worked in Dark Harbor, Maine, where 4 family members and 5 servants contracted typhoid.
As the footman brought it in, the doctors said so themselves.
The doctors were wrong. In 1904, you worked for a Henry Gilsey in Sands Point, correct?
I don't remember.
All 4 servants struck down with typhoid within 3 weeks of your arrival.
That didn't have anything to do with me. That was a coincidence, that's all.
I have so far attributed at least 27 individual cases of typhoid back to you, Miss Mallon. Now, they suggest...
Suggest, but not prove? They aren't evidence of anything, are they?
Which is why I'm going to need you to provide multiple samples of your urine, feces, and blood for the next 7 to 14 days. Now, I'm happy to wait for you to excuse yourself to the water closet.
What?
I take no pleasure in telling you this, Miss Mallon. Your hygiene is questionable. Your hand washing inadequate, your personal cleanliness deficient, and your overall levels of grooming are unsanitary.
You know, for an educated man, Mr. Soper, you can be very, very stupid.
I assure you, madam, I am as far from stupid as you are from educated.
Aye, but it isn't very clever to be hurling insults at a woman when she's got a carving fork in her hand, is
Now,
it?
Miss Mallon, your theatrics will do you no good. Now, let's sit down and discuss this like adults.
Where I come from, Mr. Soper, the adults sort things very differently. Now, out with you. On.
Mrs. Mallon, if I leave today, I will only have to come back tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that, until you see reason.
You come to my workplace throwing insults the like I've never heard of in my life.
I'll tell you what, Miss Mallon. I have a female colleague, a doctor, if you believe such things as a woman physician are possible. I believe you 2 girls will get on like a house on fire.
Send her round, Mr. Soper. She can come and collect the bits of you that I cut off now. Come on, out with you.
I must point out you are letting yourself down with this type of conduct, Miss Mallon, which I must say is unbecoming of a woman. even an Irish woman.
Get out before I rip your tongue out!
Ah, Miss Baker.
Dr. Baker, Mr. Soper.
Apologies, Dr. Baker. I do keep forgetting that.
There are only 5 female doctors in the New York Health Department, Mr. Soper. It shouldn't be that difficult for a man like you to remember.
I trust your visit to Miss Mallon was more fruitful than my own. No doubt you were able to utilize your shared bonds of female camaraderie to appeal to her. Woman to woman, I mean.
That's not exactly how I would have put it, Mr. Soper.
But I was under the impression your little expedition to Park Avenue was successful.
Well, she's here in the hospital, if that's what you mean.
Well done, Dr. Baker. Well done indeed. Of course, you had a distinct advantage. I was right in thinking that you'd be better placed to understand the irrationalities of the female mind and devise ways of overcoming them. Tell me, how exactly did you convince her to come to the hospital?
I sat on her.
Well, I can't say I'm surprised. The woman's practically feral. I hope she didn't injure you.
No, but there are 3 police constables walking extremely gingerly at present. She has quite the grip.
My God, the woman's immoral.
It perhaps would have been helpful if you'd been a bit more clear about Miss Mallon.
I told you she was typical of her kind. Obstinate, uneducated, incapable of reason, with a total lack of respect for her betters.
It says that she attacked you with a knife.
Well, attacked is perhaps too strong a word, and it was a carving fork.
I have to say, I found her very clean and neat in appearance, if nothing else.
Well, compared to her fellow countrymen, I suppose you're right. Some of the hovels I've been to would make your hair curl, Dr. Baker.
I spent my first 2 years working in Hell's Kitchen, Mr. Soper. You don't have to tell me how those people live.
Personally, I have always found the Irish far worse than the blacks, and almost as bad as the Polacks.
I didn't have time to compare them, Mr. Soper. I spent my time going from dying baby to dying baby. And the mothers.
Wallowing in their own filth.
In comparison, Miss Mallon was positively spotless.
I suspect that has less to do with her own innate standard of hygiene and more to do with her trying to make herself more employable. I mean, after all, no decent person ever hired an unclean cook.
I suppose not.
Without the watchful eye of their employers, I find most servants revert to their natural state of squalid destitution, which is why, even in Miss Mallon's case, she infected far more of her own station than of her betters.
I suppose we should be thankful for that, if nothing else.
Well, and why the lower classes tend to succumb more easily to the disease. They're more susceptible because their natural state is simply more unhygienic.
Which the city is trying to improve, Mr. Soper.
And for that, you should be applauded, Dr. Baker. Sometimes more direct action is needed. Miss Mallon being case in point. I mean, she comes over here lacking the basic manners and decorum of any half-civilized female, spreading the disease among fine, upstanding American families. And then when I and we try to educate her of her crimes, how does she react? You know, I'm assuming that the man she lives with is definitely not her husband. Seems almost proud of the fact, I understand. Of course, he's a drunk.
So many of them are. I just wonder if things could have been handled, I don't know, differently.
We could have always shot her with a tranquilizer dart like the savage animal she is.
I think it may have been beneficial to be less confrontational, maybe. Try to establish a degree of trust.
Professor Bensel wants those samples. And he would see your failure to get them as an indication that the female species is not cut out for the world of public medicine. But you did get her to provide the necessary material for testing?
Not willingly, you understand. But the results are very clear, so if you're ready, I think we should bring her in.
Oh, have you a tin hat I could borrow?
God, you again?
Well, nice to see you, Miss Mallon.
Would it help
Please sit down, Mary. Mr. Soper and I have something important we'd like to say to you.
The only thing you should be saying to me is a big fat feckin' sorry.
Well, now that'll do, Miss
And you can
Mallon.
shut your hole. You drag me here, kicking and screaming, humiliate me, strip me naked, make me piss and shit in front of an audience. Stick God knows what up God knows where, and you're telling me that that'll do.
It was for your own good.
Just so you know, these are tears of rage and hatred. Don't you go thinking you have me beaten because you haven't.
As you are aware, Miss Mallon, the New York City Health Department, with the help of Mr. Soper, had reason to believe that you are a carrier of the typhoid bacteria.
Which I am not.
And that in the course of your duties as a domestic cook have unwittingly spread that bacteria, infecting at least 27 individuals across the state.
I've never heard such rubbish in my life.
4 days ago, we obtained samples of your urine and feces alongside a number of blood
Didn't
samples.
obtain them. You stole them. You forced me to...
Mary, in the past few days, we've analyzed the samples you gave us, and the results clearly show that you do indeed carry typhoid in your intestines.
As I suspected from the start.
Now that we have confirmation...
Stop you right there, plain woman that you are. All I need to know is when I'm going to be released from this hellhole. I keep telling you I've done nothing. I've hurt no one.
Not intentionally, I agree, but as I've tried to explain to you...
Don't start with that rubbish again. I won't stand for it. I'm innocent of any wrongdoing. You just said so. So you've no business keeping me here against my will. My God, if it got out what you've done to me.
Oh, have no fear, Miss Mallon. You've already made the newspapers.
What?
Should I read it to you?
I don't think that's a very
I can
good
read
idea.
it myself. This woman has caused 27 people with whom she worked to contract typhoid fever. She is practically a human vehicle for germs, but the only thing that bothers her is being restrained. This woman is a menace to health and a danger to society. You've ruined me. I won't be able to work again.
Well, that's the least of your concerns.
They didn't use your name in the article, not your family name anyway.
And that does seem to be the only press coverage I could find, for now at least.
I have to leave New York and Albert because he won't come with me.
Albert?
Oh, Mr. Ryhoff, her, gentleman friend.
You watch your tone.
I was just...
I know exactly what you were just. Albert and I have been pals for a good many years, and you've no right to keep me from him.
He would have been welcome to visit you here any time in the past week, if you two had been married.
I could arrange for a letter to be delivered to Mr.
I don't
Ryhoff.
need no letter delivered to anyone. All I need is my clothes, and I'll be on my way.
Well, now you know that simply won't be possible, Miss
I do not know that! You swine! You can't keep me in this godforsaken hospital, you know!
We will do whatever it takes to keep the good people of this city safe.
So am I to stay here forever?
If you'll just calm down, Miss Mallon, I'll explain exactly what it is that's going to happen. After consultation with the Board of City Health officials, they have decided that given your refusal to accept the evidence of your particular condition, the city has no choice but to confine you to a small community on North Brother Island situated on the East River.
And how long exactly is this confinement to go on for?
Well, that will depend on you, Miss Mallon, and your conduct
I
once
was
there.
talking to the doctor, Mr. Soper.
An exact duration hasn't been agreed upon, but I would anticipate, if you're agreeable to any further tests that the health department may want to exercise, a few weeks, maybe up to a month.
A month? You want me to put up with this for a month?
Come on, Miss Mallon. I'm assured your quarters are quite agreeable.
Do you fucking live there?
Should I call the porters, ask them to restrain her?
No, that won't be necessary. Thank you, Mr. Soper. Miss Mallon, I believe the authorities have prepared a quite lovely cottage for you on North Brother Island, and you can have the whole run of the place.
Certainly be an improvement on your current lodgings in the tenements.
I happen to like where I live, so you keep your bile to yourself.
There are a handful of other patients there, and from what I understand, it's a very friendly and content little community.
Am I to have any say in this at all, or...
It is, as they say, a done deal, Miss Mallon. Think of it as an extended vacation.
When does this jail sentence begin?
Right now.
You're not our prisoner, Miss Mallon.
I not indeed.
More of a guest, as it were.
Can I at least go back to the Bowery for a few hours, collect my things?
Well, I'm afraid that simply won't be possible.
Am I not to be given the right to see my own home, my friends, check on Oscar?
Oscar?
I believe that's the name of her dog.
It's out of the question.
I should have carved you up when I had the chance.
Miss Mallon.
Well, now, I don't think there's anything left to discuss. Do you, Dr. Baker?
Well, I guess.
Oh, well, that's settled then. If you wouldn't mind telling the porters we're done with the patient.
Well, yes, okay.
In time, Miss Mallon, I hope you'll come to realize that what Dr. Baker and I do for you is for your own good, and more importantly, the good of the city.
And I hope that your balls shrivel up and drop off, Mr. Sober.
Enjoy your vacation, Miss Mallon. Mrs. Brown?
You're late. Those dinners should have been up in the ward 10 minutes ago. Shift yourself.
Nice to see you again, Miss Mallon.
It is you. Is it not, Mary?
Or is it Mrs. Brown these days? Although I see no ring on your finger. When we were asked to investigate a typhoid outbreak at Sloan Maternity Hospital, the chief physician happened to mention the presence of a fiery Irish cook, and I
won't
thought...
go back.
Excuse me?
I won't go back.
Well, now, what must it be? 5? No, 6 years?
To 7 years as well, you know.
Please, Mary. Sit down.
I'll do no such thing. And if you've got no further call on my services, I'll be off.
There are 10 constables outside.
Only 10?
Of course, we prefer it if you came with us willingly.
It isn't in my nature, Dr. Baker.
Please, Miss Mallon, take a seat, just for a few minutes. You understand why we're here?
As I already said, I won't go back to that cursed island, so you can get that idea right out of your heads.
When the health department allowed you to leave North Brother Island...
They didn't allow me to leave, Mr. Soper. They ordered you to release me because they saw through your lies.
Nevertheless, a condition of your return to society was that under no circumstances were you to ever work in the preparation of food again.
I don't recall the details.
You signed an affidavit, Miss Mallon. Otherwise, the judge would never have authorized your release. You made a legal promise, and yet here you are.
I tried it your way.
I'm sorry?
I said I tried to do the things you asked, but I had no other choice.
Nonsense, Miss Mallon. You are a capable woman. You could have secured any number of positions.
Oh, no, I did hear that J.P. Morgan were looking for a new chairman, but I wasn't sure that the hours would suit.
New York City has any number of jobs for a woman such as yourself. Maid, washerwoman, cleaner, perhaps even a waitress if you smartened yourself up.
I understand that on leaving the island, one of the doctors secured you a job in a laundry.
Oh, aye, and what a sorry pittance it paid, too. I have no husband. I couldn't make enough to live on. Not to mention the indignity of girls half my age and half my ability bossing me around.
You knew when you insisted on returning to New York, you'd have to sacrifice a few luxuries, Miss Mallon.
Oh, like eating, do you mean? You try going without a few meals, you ignorant pup, you. And many's the night I went hungry in that bloody laundry.
And we do sympathize, Miss Mallon. But when you pose a
People have died. Do you comprehend that? 2 medical staff at this hospital are dead because of your willful selfishness and disregard for the safety of others.
Still peddling your lies, I see, Mr. Soper.
facts, Miss Mallon. Scientific, evidence-based facts. You have to believe that.
I don't have to believe anything you say, Doctor. You said I'd be on this island no more than 1 month.
That was unfortunate.
Unfortunate. That was 3 years of my feckin' life cast away with the rest of the lepers you'd sooner all forget about.
Oh, we never forgot about you, Mary. You made sure of that.
If you'd had your way, I'd have been left to rot on that island till the end of my days.
And I believe you'd have been better off. I make no apologies for that, Dr. Baker.
Courts didn't agree with you, though, did they?
Oh, perhaps not. I believe they'll see things differently this time.
What are you talking about this time?
It is my duty to tell you that the New York City Health Department will be making a new application to the courts to have you detained on an indefinite basis on North Brother Island until such time as you can prove that you understand the very serious risk that you pose to the American public.
I'll pose a very serious risk to you in a minute, Mr. Soper. I'll use your head for a meat ballot!
Woman, it's completely irrational.
Miss Mallon, please, you're not helping your cause with this behavior.
Oh, and how should I behave, Dr. Baker? Like you, maybe. All quiet smiles and submissive like, waiting for your man to issue his instructions.
All I am saying is it is in both of our interests to keep things civil.
Do they intend to send me back?
Absolutely.
I wasn't talking to you.
An application has been made to the court, yes. The hearing is next week. You've left us with no other choice, Mary.
Hold on. There was a doctor on the island. Wanted to remove my gallbladder, said it might solve the problem. He did, and I told him to go to hell, but what if I changed my mind and had the surgery?
There was some hope that surgery might reduce the risk of carriers spreading the bacteria, but recent results have not been very encouraging.
So I suggest you pack a bag.
I can't go back there, Dr. Baker. I can't. You've no idea what it's like. I know I'm headstrong, but I won't last. Not again. It broke me. Please, Dr. Baker.
If it was quite so bad, Mrs. Mallon, I'd have thought you'd have been more cognizant about avoiding doing anything to risk you returning there. As it was, you took this job because of your greed and your arrogance.
We'll soon see about that then, won't we? I beat your precious health department once before, and I'll do it again. People were pretty sympathetic to a woman like me being bullied by the state. Became quite the celebrity, if I recall.
Well, I believe you'll find public opinion quite different this time.
Oh, really? And why would that be?
You changed your name, concealed your identity. Well, that shows clear premeditation on your part. See, I believe you used up your last ounce of sympathy the moment you put on a cook's apron and condemned 2 poor souls to the grave.
Liar! I never hurt anyone.
We understand your predicament, Mary.
Oh.
No. We really do. But your affliction puts other people at risk, and we cannot allow that.
So, what happens now?
Now it's time to go.
And if I refuse, will you sit on me again, Dr. Baker?
I'd prefer not to, Miss Mallon.
But either way, You're coming with us today, Miss Mallon.
Then I suggest you ready your constables, Mr. Soper. Tell them I won't be coming without a fight. Bloody boat. 23 years I'm on this island. And that boat, never once been on time. Never. Not even by accident. I used to be on it twice a day, going to court for all the good it did me. How do they put it? She had the chance to live in freedom, but she deliberately threw it away. Never saw either one of them again once the trial was over. Still write to them, though. Death threats, mainly. Keeps me amused. Lets them know I'm still thinking about them. They say it is important to keep busy, not dwell on how things were or might have been. That's the trouble with this place. Too much time to think. When I first arrived, you'll never guess what they had me doing. Baking actual feckin' cakes for the patients. Could you credit it after all their shite about, what was it, contamination? They stick me in the kitchen with a mixing bowl and half a pound of butter. They still come wanting their samples. 3 times every week. Though after 20 years, God alone knows what they're hoping to find. There were others like me, healthy folk, spreading death and disease, but none of them were sent here. They were men, so it is different, apparently. I hear them, and they think I'm not listening. Oh, it's Miss Mallon, to my face, but when 'tis just the nurses, I hear what they call me. That's her, they say. That's typhoid Mary. Little bitches. But I just smile, sweetly, as I pass them their cup of tea with my very own secret ingredient. Let's just say I've had plenty of practice pissing into small pots, so my aim is still pretty impressive, even with the leg. This will probably be my last trip to the city. It was a fair few years before they agreed to let me off the island, even for the few hours. They were always terrified I'd run away, until they realized I had nowhere to go. Still, some of the poor souls on here have it a lot worse than me. They're just waiting to die. Oh, and the chaplain going around asking all and sundry to make their peace with God. He said it to me once. He said, I've never made my peace with anyone not in 69 years, and I don't intend to start now. They've already told me I won't survive another stroke. I said to the doctor, so it's a case of 3 strokes and you're out, is it? I just hope it's quick. That'll be another fresh consignment of tuberculosis patients arriving on the island Alcatraz for the afflicted. Some of them, they mightn't know about me. So I pull them aside. I say, this woman before ye was once called the most dangerous woman in America. And I tell them what they do to me. The New York City Health Department. And when they say, oh, what should we call you? I say, well, you can call me Miss Mallon. But my friends, well, my friends, they call me Mary.